The Insta360 Flow 2 Pro, say that 3 times fast, might be one of the best gimbals I've ever used, but also one of the more frustrating, primarily because it's not really pro as its name might suggest.
Now don't get me wrong, the gimbal has a lot of pro level features built in, but for me the #1 thing is the ability to use an ND filter, and the Flow 2 Pro has a 300 gram payload limit.
So the iPhone 17 Pro Max that I have weighs 231 grams. So you're already a good way towards 300 grams. This case I use a lot. This is a Sandmark case. It weighs 54 grams. So you're at 285 right there. I like this reflex case. It's a little lighter, 48 grams, 47 grams. And so you're at 280 roughly. But the problem with these two is you can't put an ND on them. So I really like the Moment quick lock filters. The filter itself, 30 grams. The case, 63. So 63 and 30 is 93, 94, 92, plus 231. And that's 325. Not good. I also like this freewheel setup. It's a little heavier. It's a very lightweight system normally, but 51 grams. The case though, and you have to use the freewheel case that's got this built-in magnetic system. The case is 65 grams. So that together is like 115 roughly. Well, I can look at it right now. 114. So 114 plus 231. Probably shouldn't put that on top of that filter. 346. That ain't gonna work. So my problem with this system, with this Pro system, is with these larger phones at least, you cannot easily use an ND filter. So even though the Moment is typically a bulkier case, it does fit into the mount, and with the ND filter, it gives me the closest to the 300 gram payload. This is 325, and it kind of works. Kind of.
We'll get back to the footage momentarily, but I need to quickly look at the app. You do have to activate the gimbal, which is really pretty simple, and I personally skipped registering it. And then you download some resources, and then you can also update the firmware if needed. But other than that,
the only time I really like to use the app is when I'm doing some sort of calibration. And I'm going to try auto calibration here. I don't do this often, but I usually do it when I first set up a gimbal for sure. And I think that helped. It was a little bit off axis.
The other thing you need to do is set up the Apple Dock Kit using your iPhone's NFC reader. This is really interesting. It allows third-party apps to talk to the gimbal, and you can then control some features and actually do tracking in any video camera app. So I'm using the Blackmagic camera app, and one thing that is really unique about this gimbal, because of the Apple Dock Kit, is not only can I hit record, and now it's recording in the Blackmagic camera app, I can also zoom. I'm using the wheel down here to zoom in and out on the app. Now, I'm not a big proponent of zooming, but the ability to switch that while you're actually filming is pretty impressive. The other thing you can do with this is you can actually use the Blackmagic camera app as a tracker. You don't need any hardware, it's software based, and the camera will track you. It grabs your face and it will track you back and forth. I've never seen that before besides in a dedicated gimbal app, which for the most part I usually dislike. One thing too, you can easily click this button on the right, double click it, and you go right into vertical shooting. I don't do a lot of vertical shooting, but that is a nice feature, especially for social media. Click it again, and you go right back to horizontal. Now I've got the gimbal in free tilt mode, which is more or less like using a mini jib. And so that way you can go up and down and do reveal shots. Again, a really great feature for this gimbal, even though it doesn't hold a lot of weight. And the other thing you can do when you're shooting like this is go into low mode. So you're more or less doing flashlight mode or underslung mode and able to get some really cool low angle shots. Damn, low mode. But low mode is a little bit frustrating as it flips the camera around sometimes, and it just did it to me. And it's probably because of the weight on here. But you can still get some interesting shots as long as the gimbal weight holds. As I mentioned earlier, I don't typically use gimbal apps because most of them are pretty bad, and I don't need all the quirky bells and whistles that they offer. And third-party apps are typically better. Almost all the time they're better, especially Blackmagic, etc. But this gimbal and this app definitely have a few features that are much more pro and worth a look.
So it's really cool. You can choose ProRes in the app, and you can also shoot Apple Log, which is what I do for everything. The negative is it only does evidently ProRes HQ, and then you don't have a preview LUT. And so you're just looking at the log footage. Again, it's great they offer this in the app. Most gimbal apps are pretty bad. This one has a lot of great features.
And then they actually have a teleprompter in the app.
A built-in teleprompter is really pretty interesting, and one of the only ones I have seen that does that. The only thing is, of course, you can only use the selfie camera, and so it's not as good of a camera, but it's still good enough for most situations, especially for social media. And having the teleprompter there is a really nice touch.
So ultimately, who is this gimbal for? Well, it's not for filmmakers, in my opinion. It's for travelers, it's for creators, it's for people that are doing less professional type work. You can get a lot of pro features in the gimbal, as I showed, and I just highlighted a few. There are tons of features in this gimbal. There are other tutorials online that you can watch for more details. I was just, again, looking at it from a professional filmmaking perspective, and the weight really hurts it for me, the weight limit. But for people doing travel videos, again, or doing social media, TikTok, Instagram Reels, Facebook, or yeah, small filmmaking jobs, like again, that jib feature is great, or low mode, getting shots against the ground, or any kind of shots like that that are kind of unique. And then considering you can connect it to the Blackmagic app, that is pretty cool. But the biggest problem again is you can't put any accessories on your phone. Number one being an ND filter. I did show it with the moment filter, and that filter is okay. It's really not a high-end filter though. So to use high-end filters, to use lenses, etc., you need to go with a hybrid gimbal. My biggest complaint though is I have other gimbals that are social media style gimbals that will hold more weight. If they would make this gimbal with a 350 gram, that's not much more, 400 gram would be ideal, motor that would lift that kind of weight, I would recommend this across the board to everybody. But as it is right now, I can only recommend it to social media users, which again, in the end, that's really who it's for. But when you put the word pro in a gimbal, you know, that makes me think it's hopefully not just marketing. And it does have pro features for sure, but not the one pro feature that I really need. But I do like the gimbal a lot. I said at the beginning, it's one of the better gimbals that I've used, and it really is. It's feature packed. And you know, you can do photos, you can do hyperlapse, all that kind of thing. So if you're into that, check it out. If you need one for filmmaking, this might not be for you. Thanks for watching. This is Blake Calhoun, and I will see you in the next video.